to ask you as we get back into your book, and I'm starting to understand your ethos and where it comes from. I was in doing some research. I was looking just at the titles of previous articles you've written.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm going to talk about your bio in the intro, but I mean, I can't even pronounce most of the words in the titles of the articles you've written. So I want to know what got you from those types of articles to this book. Like, I'll just pick one: predicting atomic decay rates using an informational entropic approach, or cosmic metaphysics, being versus becoming in cosmology and astrophysics. Like, this is deep scientific stuff.
Mhm.
How do you get from writing that to this book, and why did you decide to make that transition?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you for asking it.
Mhm.
So, I've been in public understanding of science for a very long time, right? I mean, this is my sixth book in English, I think, and
Okay.
the country I come from, Brazil, I mean, I've published many, many more.
Yeah.
So this has been part of my whole career because I think that science is too beautiful to be left only for the scientists. I
Mm.
think that we have a duty to inform the public about what it is that we're doing because at the end of the world, we got to remember that our research is being paid by the taxpayers, and they have to know why it is worthwhile to spend money, financing this kind of stuff. So that is one, and the most important one really is that science is part of our culture. It's how we look at ourselves, and it contributes to that vision. It's not the only way. I'm not going to say that science has answers to everything because it does not. Quite the opposite.
Mhm.
That's you have to look at philosophy, you have to look at spirituality and religion, you have to look at arts to actually really construct a picture of what it means to be human. But science does have a big part on this equation, more and more, and so to humanize science, I think it's essential.
Mm.
And and if you do look at my books, there is kind of like a transition from the more mostly scientific stuff, even though my first book is called The Dance Universe from Creation Meets the Big Bang. I always have had an interest and worry really in relating science to religion, to philosophy, to history, to show that it is a process of discovery, really, that there is no final answers to anything, that we're always learning something new about ourselves, and that these questionings are as old as the first human or before human looked up at the sky, saw those blinking stars and says, what the heck is that? And how come
Mm.
they don't fall on us?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and why can't I grab it? Why is it so far away? And what, I mean, those are questions that basically nurtured the whole scientific approach, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to answer these very same questions these folks have asked thousands and thousands of years ago.
Mhm.
So why this book in particular, right? Because this book is different from my other books, not just because it connects philosophy and religion, because the others did too, but because the subtitle is a manifesto for humanity's future.
Right.
And when you write and I went back and I read the Communist Manifesto when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
I went back to read it because I wanted to phrase and construct the end of the book as a manifesto, kind of following the same example of Marx and Engels. So
Nice.
how do you write a manifesto after
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So you come up with a very concise and strong mindset and point of view, and then you suggest action items to, like, okay, what it is that you're going to do in order to implement your change. So in the case of the Communist Manifesto, let's destroy the bourgeoisie, and and in my case, it's not that. It's like, let's rethink our relationship to the planet and to each other and to all life in this planet.
Mhm.
Because the framing of this book is really about the way we are functioning in this planet right now. It's not sustainable. We need to rethink our relationship with the world. We've sustained ourselves. I mean, think about this. We sustained ourselves for the last 200 years by essentially eating the entrails of the planet. The oil, the gas, the coal, all of this stuff is coming from underground. In fact, leftover stuff from animals that lived here millions of years ago.
Uh,
To sustain the fuel of our civilization comes from these fossils, fossil fuels. That's what we
sure.
call that, right? And that has been great, but it also came with a huge environmental cost. And now we are in a transitional time where we are beginning to realize that. More people should be realizing that, but that's part of the work.
Mm.
And we are realizing that, hey, look at that. The skies are giving us all this energy. Look, the sun shines, produces a huge amount of energy. Let's use that. The winds blow because the atmosphere is always in motion. Let's use that. And so instead of eating the planet, let's just open our antennas and our fans, to absorb the energy that is already out there in the skies, right? So
Mm.
that's the transition. But with that transition, you necessitate a different way of thinking about who we are. And so, what I try to do in the book is to construct a narrative of what it means to be human. And I know it's an ambitious project, but construct a narrative of what it means to be human, moving away from the we are above nature to we are very fundamentally part of nature and we are completely codependent with the life collective that we share this planet with.
Mm.
We can raise down mountains and create channels and do all sorts of incredible engineering things that we do, but we cannot stop earthquakes, we cannot stop volcanic eruptions, we cannot stop pandemics. They will happen. We can slow down or we can accelerate their end, but we are not above the natural. We are very much part of it. The air that you breathe, every time you breathe, you are taking in the world.
Mm.
So if the world is sick, you're going to get sick.
Right. So it almost feels like maybe for me, it's less about feeling above nature, but more about feeling part of it. Just recognizing they are us and the world and the planet and all of those things are less separable than we have come to believe.
Yeah, but most people do believe it because say, hey, science can solve all the problems. We are overpopulated, right? I mean, I always like to say this because it's such a mind-blowing number. 100 years ago, there were 2 billion humans in this planet.
Hmm.
Now there are 8.
Right.
We quadrupled the population of the planet in 100 years, which is why? Well, because of technology, medicine, food, but all these people have to eat, they need energy, they need fuel. How are we going to do this? Right? How are we
Hmm.
going to do this in a planet that is big, but it's finite in its resources and size? We
Right.
have to rethink how we connect to the world. And so, and clearly, this whole rhetoric of dystopian futures, the end of the world is coming, global warming and political strife, it's not working. It's not making people say eat a little less meat or use less water or whatever it is, or take public transportation. So because of, I guess, my personality and the way I like to think, I always think in terms of mythic dimensions, so to speak, because the questions I deal with are always kind of like origin of the universe, origin of life, origin of mind and consciousness.
Sure.
I said we need a new myth, a new mythic narrative of the human. And so that's where the whole space thing comes back to, because what I argue in the book is that we humans are much more important than we think we are, because we are the animals in this planet that are able to tell a story, which is the story of the universe, the story that we came from. We are more than anything else. We are the animals that can tell stories. And the stories that we have been telling are amazing, but they're also very destructive. And certainly the story that we've been telling, that we can do to the planet as we please, is a bad story. So the
Mm.
real story is that if you connect ourselves to the universe in a much deeper sense, and here we go, What are we made of? Well, calcium in the bones and iron in your blood. And where does all this stuff come from? Well, it came from exploding stars
Right.
that exploded billions of years ago. So, Chris, you may be a young guy,
Hmm.
but this is the Chris that is this assemblage of atoms that exists right now. But the very stuff that makes you be Chris
Hmm.
is billions of years old.
Right.
So we are profoundly connected to the cosmic history. We really are, not over romanticizing, we really are how the universe tells its story. Are
Mm.
there other aliens there telling stories? Maybe, but we have no idea. We haven't heard from them. And the human story is the only human story in the universe because Earth and every planet is different. There is no two Earths out there. There are no two Earths out there. No planets evolve in the same way.
Right.
So that means that the life that possibly another world may have will for sure be different from the life here.
Right. And so I love how you call it the dawn of a mindful universe. Is the idea that we need to now essentially be more thoughtful about the way we coexist on this planet, as opposed to think of the planet as something that just serves us, that gives us what we need, that sustains our life, and that provides our fuel for growth?
Yeah, that's awesome. So mindfulness is kind of an overused word.
Right.
So you got to be careful about the meanings. And there are really two meanings. One of them is yes, hopefully people will become and are becoming, I think, more mindful of the way we relate to the planet, its resource, and also animal rights. I mean, the way we treat animals in farms is just horrendous, is
Yeah.
murderous, genocide, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to a huge extent, I mean, anyways, let's not go there unless you want to.
Well,
But
we might. I'm going to put a note if we've got time.
but the other mindfulness here is really the fact that the universe only begun to tell its story because we gain a voice. We as a species gain a voice. So before we existed, there was no voice. There was just animals moving around and particles interacting by forces, animals in this planet. But most of the universe has been a sequence of particles interacting by gravity, electromagnetism, and the other nuclear forces, creating connections, but not being alive, and most certainly not telling stories, not searching for existential meaning, not trying to understand what is the reason that I'm here. Why am I waking up every morning? What is my sense of purpose? And suddenly, when we came around, and maybe other hominins, before us did that too, but we have no idea. So we focus on the human story, and the human story is the first story that we know of that tries to make sense of existence. And so the universe gains a mind through us. That's the dawn of the mindful universe.
Okay, my head just exploded. This is crazy. Man, I can't even be eloquent when something is this trippy.